Hello there. Welcome to another edition of XFeed. Today might be a holiday where you are, and if so, hope you had a good one. And if not, that's what I call tough. Today, we got Coinbase, at least their CEO, talking about AIs now paying other AIs in crypto. We've been talking that notion a little bit here because I think it really opens things up. And further to that, I was having another thought over the weekend where, everybody's saying, okay, what are the catalysts to things? Well, what if it's just all of these AI agents trading, playing these games? What if all this is just AI integrated? Kind of crazy to think about, but let's get into things. This is a article posted by Brian Armstrong, again, CEO of Coinbase. AIs are now paying other AIs with crypto. This week at Coinbase Dev, we witnessed our first AI to AI crypto transaction. What did one AI buy from another? Tokens, not crypto tokens, but AI tokens. Words basically from one LLM to another. They use tokens to buy tokens. AI agents cannot get bank accounts, but they can get crypto wallets. They can now use USDC on Base to transact with humans, merchants, or other AIs. Those transactions are instant, global, and free. This is an important step to AIs getting useful work done. Today, if you give an AI agent a task and come back in a few days or hours, it can't get useful work done. In part, this is a limitation of the technology itself, and products like Divin.ai are getting closer to this. But the other reason is AIs can't transact to acquire the resources they need. They don't have a credit card to use AWS, GitHub, or Verkle. They don't have a payment method to book you the plane ticket or hotel for your upcoming trip. They can't get through paywalls, for instance, to read a scientific article, promote their post on X with a paid ad, or use the growing network of paid APIs to integrate data they need. If you're working on this, give them a little bit of a shout. And if you're a company that sells a service, get ready for your shopping cart to be AI checkout enabled, which is kind of interesting to think about because right now we have some checkouts that have some sort of crypto payment, but imagine it's AI down the way. Except I feel like that would also potentially be hidden unless it's like Apple Pay, Google Pay, but it's now AI agents. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So cool cats. One thing that I really like is when they post things that are relevant and try to bring, I guess, recognition to other brands. And we'll highlight the MLB, how they do a fantastic job of this, but you've never maybe been aware of it, but we'll get into that in a second. And so anyway, Cool Cats posted about their Chugs character in a Lord of the Rings outfit, and then they had kind of a funny Netflix breakdown with that as well. Cool to see just kind of that, highlighting of it, I guess. Uniswap, we're teaming up with Pudgy Penguins at Korea Blockchain Week. Apparently, Uniswap is doing everything. We got Van Eck that's rocking the Pudgy Penguins. We got Uniswap that's rocking the Pudgy Penguins. Everybody is rocking the Pudgy Penguins, it seems like lately, in terms of like an industrial complex. So one sec, I gotta shut the door. I can hear the bird going. All right, so for this next thing, Ether, this was a collection that kind of came out and then got a ton of traction, and everything immediately went to them basically saying more info soon. And that turned into a clothing drop of all sorts, which is kind of interesting. And again, 100,000 followers. There was a certain time in NFTs when just anything anime went nuts, and this was one of the collections that was a part of it. And so there wasn't much to this before. It was just the Discord and the site, but the site didn't lead anywhere. And then the clothing collection, $250 for a sweater. Holy smoke. Sounds crazy, potentially. Or you're like, okay, this is cool. For anybody that's into anime type artistry, $135 for long sleeve seems kind of insane, but I'm biased in my approach. So the great thing about X is we can see other people's perspectives on things. Ether is a luxury brand created by Vision of Vi. Now, this Vi individual has almost 100,000 followers just alone. We aim to bridge the gap between multiple industries such as fashion, anime, and technology, all working alongside our community. We will create new and exciting experiences both in the physical and digital realm. We wish to uplift the world and individuals in various ways. Ether is a brand shaped by the people for the people. So, I mean, I don't know. That seems kind of like generic off of that like info bit right there, to be totally honest. But yeah, we see people rocking The Ether merch, maybe Web3 based merch, is back in style, baby. G-Hose from Ronin, Axie Infinity, massive player. Crypto is having an identity crisis. Now, this is an opinion piece. Give it a boom or a doom afterwards. After meme coins, the space is looking for signs of actual adoption. However, some cognitive biases are clouding our vision. And I kind of agree, where a lot of people feel that whenever you look at different networks, and obviously we've highlighted Root a lot, and you can see how many people have done these different quests, and, it's not a whole lot, but then you're like, okay, well, when am I going out to try other networks? When have I just said, hey, I'm going to do that? Where, the reverse of that other network's like, oh, we have people here. Why aren't others paying attention? Well, we have the best, right? So there's all these narratives. So I agree with the initial thought here. In the West, retail is primarily involved in trading meme coins. You can verify this by checking the geoanalytics on Black Noise 06's account, primarily Americans. So when Western crypto/Ethereum whales look around and look for adoption by real people, the main thing they see is meme coin speculation via things like pump.fun. This is why the Ethereum community, primarily Westerners, feels so despondent right now. However, crypto and the Ethereum virtual machine have found product market fit outside of the West in emergent economies. This PMF comes from money remittances and cross-border transfer. Most Americans don't need to send money overseas often, so we're unaware of how much better crypto is for this use case. Yeah, just try to send money generally outside of the country. It's always like, what? Store of value in stablecoins, the USD and even the euro are pretty stable compared to emerging market currencies. Holding USDC doesn't feel revolutionary as an American. It does feel revolutionary as an Argentinian who is blocked from purchasing more than 10,000 USD via traditional rails and has endured decades of exponential inflation. So this is great. And again, all about the perspective aspects is, you're right. Okay. It seems simple, right? We go down to the mall and you get a exchange booth. Depending on like the size of your city, but on some of the bigger ones, there's usually like a currency exchange, but there's sometimes limits and regulations. I'm thinking, okay, well, from an Argentinian's perspective, if they want to have US dollars, that's interesting. Gaming. There are millions of gamers playing crypto games right now on Ronin Network and other gaming networks. This is a sector that EVM and Ethereum are dominating. EVM is north of 80% market share in crypto gaming, and Solana has never had a game hit 1 million users. So that's actually crazy, because if you remember, the notion for Solana for the longest time, well, sorry, again, this is from my not like insanely in the space at the time, but the flagship, everything for Solana, pay attention to Star Atlas. It's going to be bringing all the users. It's going to be bringing all the attention, et cetera, et cetera. Now, during the FTX collapse, there was a situation where there was some teams who had funds within FTX, and I guess it was lost, but now seeing that people are getting their money back from it, I don't know if it's different from the institutions versus elsewhere, because at the time, if you were around, like Yuga Labs, every single team was out there explaining, hey, like, we are fine. We don't have any funds that are not SAFU anymore. But it was a really big deal, and it was a big hit at Star Atlas at the time, at least from like a narrative perspective, but nobody brings it up. Nobody really talks about that anymore. But I did, kind of assume that something on Solana would have hit that many users. But also, when you sit here and you like reflect like 1 million users, we argue if we actually have 100,000 people that are like daily active, you know what I mean? And that's across everything. So EVM is north of 80% of the market share, with Solana game having never hit 1 million users. EVM has had 2, Axie Infinity and the Cycle Pixels online. EVM-powered gaming is growing, so relax. Ethereum is going to be okay. Ethereum is growing. Not bad. In this chart, NFT volume on Mavis Market has increased significantly in 2024. So that is crazy. 90.75 average month-over-month growth. Like, actually super impressive. And you can see that it just kind of shoots up there, where it was going in December of last year, less than even 500,000, upwards now of almost touching 7 million. In that short of a time span. Kind of crazy. Now, speaking of crazy, there's not a day where there's a headline, a story, something odd happening on the timeline. Now, this isn't maybe odd for some. Some people might think this is bullish. Some people might think this is bearish. I've not really had any takes on Sugartown, to be totally honest, because anytime I've gone to check out the site, it says that I'm geo-blocked. That's what I call tough. Anywho, here is the announcement from Sugartown, which, again, is a Web3 game that was backed by Zynga, which is a huge gaming company. The future is now. Welcome to D20 Labs. Led by our founders M. Wolf and Tommy NGO, we have acquired all products and assets under Sugartown from Zynga. This is a historical moment that has been in process for months. We are excited to explore a world of unlimited possibilities. Now, it's full steam ahead to create the future of rewarded play. We have the independence, autonomy, and ability to create products that scale, all while delivering quality you expect from a top-tier game studio. Rewarded play on the cutting edge of innovation is our only focus. Let us be the first to reassure our holders that our execution will only get better from here. We have assembled a team of some of the top minds in Web 2 and Web 3 games and are more than ready to embark on this chapter. Okay, so again, not trying to have any biases or anything. All right, we have a pretty large project, I'd say, in terms of recognition. Now, does everybody outside of Web3 know this? Nah, they probably know about Zynga, but was Sugartown really pushed outside of our space? I don't know. But let's see what everybody had to say about it. Thread guys saying, unironically, the most bullish news all month. The sellouts need to sell out before we can go higher. And this is in a response to Beanie saying, Zynga capitulated on NFTs at the bottom. This is the Web3 equivalent of Cathie Wood full stack selling into earnings. Bullish for the industry. So kind of a negative take, thinking, okay, like Zynga was the one to sell. And this takes me back to when everybody in the space was like, we're working with Disney. We have some kind of great thing. And nobody cares. And it wasn't like actually true, but there was all these narratives and certain teams were like, you know what? Hey, listen, that's fine. You guys, you're saying that we're going to make $1,005,000. Hey, thanks. Thanks for the message, right? So all these narratives and stuff change. But what else do we have on here? Owen saying, it just means Sugartown can now do a token. So that's why they are no longer with Zynga, because they need to do a token. Web3. Zero chance they could have done that being part of Zynga or Take-Two. Okay, very plausible and good thought on that one. Wave, with a little bit more of a negative viewpoint, Zynga sold off their Web3 project to some of the people that were working on it. They were literally counting down an announcement and building up hype on the timeline, then delayed, then sold their whole project. I love crypto. Now, I think this is one thing that the space generally falters on, is trying to build up some kind of hype momentum, mislabeling something. Because it's all about expectations, right? Like if you go into a restaurant and you're like, you know what? I'm going to feel full at the end of this and it's going to be a good meal. And then at the end of that, you're not full and it wasn't good. You're like, why are my expectations this way? Well, maybe because it's like the past history of going to that restaurant. Maybe there's reviews and then you're just like, huh? Not a fan. So just generally we need to be better at expectation setting. Because if all that's true, it does feel weird that they're like, hey, we got this huge announcement. Yeah, we're no longer a part of Zynga. Which is, I mean, like for comparison, when everybody saw that Yuga divested their heavy metal and Legends of Mara, there was a huge ripple effect and people were like, oh, this isn't a Yuga name. We don't like it. The branding matters, I think. Now, we could also make the argument for CryptoPunks. Well, they're still doing good. They're a part of Yuga. There was the initial FUD on that. Like, again, narrative shift all the time, and that's why you got to think for yourself on what the hell's going on. Hunter Solaire commenting, saying, doubt the team made enough money to convince Zynga of anything. Outside perspective is they just gave the Sugartown team old IP and said, if you can do something with this, then by all means, they probably release a token now. So 2 comments there for the token. And yeah, wasn't necessarily very great for the price action. So you've referenced the heavy metal downfall with not being a part of Yuga. It looks like Sugartown did take a little bit of a hit from that. Moritz saying Zynga sold off Sugartown, whose sole marketing message was, we are Zynga. Okay, fair. I wouldn't be surprised if token launch follows. Shipping flag. Okay, listen, now we're just ripping on people. And then there's another thing, but I'm just realizing we're talking about this subject way too long. Camel also talks about it too, breaking it down, but he seems basically that he's bullish. Again, it was a lot of the team that was already working on it. Now that it can expand a lot more and do things quicker. There was one portion in here that talks about that changes at D20. Web 2 moves slow for good reason, and Web 3 moves fast for good reason. So yeah, I guess just not being a part of a bigger figure for that. There you go. But again, just for floor price is about 0.18, now down to 0.12. Is this a capitulation phase? Are they going to start rocking and rolling? That's up for you to decide. Super interesting partnership. Inter Miami Football Club team coming out of the MLS. If you're familiar, you know that Lionel Messi as well as Luis Suarez both play for this team, and they have polka dot sponsors, at least on the training kit now. And there was Messi. So very interesting. Unbelievable the amount of people that just comment for Messi and the attention that it gets. But let's talk a little bit more about it, because it's more than just a shirt, right? Or where the I didn't get the right tab down. But what we'll get into in a little bit was that there was a DAO vote over using that ad space, or like spending that. So it was actually like a Polkadot DAO that decided that they were going to pay for that. And there was some, interesting comments with that. But the point being is we are seeing a mass influx of people coming back towards crypto in terms of advertising, right? We had a whole bunch of different crypto.com arenas, FTX Arena, all these things. Esports had a ton of sponsorships, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden, that kind of went away with the collapse of everything. But now it's starting to pop up absolutely everywhere. Adam Hollander saying, I paid 12 hundo for these 5 pins a few months ago and just heard it sold today for 55 hundo, which is kind of crazy. And does that mean that NFTs are coming back? Does that mean if you create something that has demand, that's literally all you need? Pump Funds team officially made over 100 million. Again, the meme coin creators on Solana, 100 million made. And again, things are looking pretty spicy. I saw this account, Metaverse Morgan. They bought neverfadeyuga.com. Love the commitment. Thought it was kind of funny up there, so wanted to share it with you guys. Andrew Steinworld saying NFTs failed is the equivalent of saying Bitcoin failed in 2014 after the 2013 bubble. We aren't even in the first inning. I kind of agree with this. I've had the notion since the beginning of the year that we're going to see a huge attention on just mass adoption. And what I mean by that is just like saturation of NFTs from brands and things that you actually like. But what we used to see are kind of like individual teams that are launching different ideas and whatnot, but or like brand pieces to generate an IP and kind of build it from the ground up. But now it feels like we are now having people that are building the foundations and then launching kind of collectively in like a different way. So all these like mainstream movie IPs, all these video games that are out there, I think that we're going to start to see some different changes within the gaming industry. And one of the ones that I thought was kind of like weird from like my own personal life, I play League of Legends a fair bit. And on one of the podcasts that I was listening to, they were referencing that the League of Legends game was going to change forever in 2025. And apparently they walked that back. So great job setting expectations, or like, it's not going to be that big. But like, what happens if suddenly all these games integrate with some sort of Web3 thing, realize, hey, this is like the way of the future. The regulation gets kind of spread out. The video game industry is insane. Now we're coupling it with AI, blockchain technology. I mean, sure, things haven't been great depending on like what you're at. And like, that's also primarily only focusing on pricing of assets that have gone up and down. But first inning, generally agree. Now, Parallel, the trading card game that's got a ton of attention, saw this on the timeline and thought, okay, we're still having fun about things. And that's the one thing to note. If you do have an X account, if you're on here, you're going to see a ton of different opinions. Things I say are going to be wrong or biased. Things you see on the timeline are going to be wrong and biased, or sometimes right biased or right and unbiased. But it's, you think it as an adult, but it's pretty crazy when you know that a narrative is untrue, but people are still pushing it. So Koji's saying, I feel like this has to be said every time someone new from another game mentions Parallel. None of our art is AI. There is no scam. You don't need cards to play. And I made this game because I love the same card games as you. And I like Parallel. I think it's genuinely a fun game. He's right. You don't need to have all these NFTs and whatnot, but there is this stigma that's attached with, it's a blockchain game. You have to pay for it. So we get more of these free-to-play experiences that are out there. Forgotten Rooneyverse, where they have like their playtest, which is cool. The Third Kingdom, which is or Readyverse, which is supposed to be open from Readyverse, that is supposed to be free to play, which is open. Tongue twisted on the words a little bit there. But when do we see more Web3 games that are free to play really get some adoption? Now, I'm not going over this, but there was an article that got published that was kind of like a hit piece on Illuvium. This is a former dev, kind of ragging on the team. But it's interesting that we're just kind of at a point where these things still like pop up, right? Like Illuvium's been around forever. And now we see things of like just Thrash and the team, this, that, and the other thing. What do you exactly believe on the timeline? And the piece kind of talks about like an ego, right? And I'm like, you have to have like a pretty damn hard mindset out there to do anything within Web3. Think of the amount of people that just rip on everything, that are never happy, that are never joyous, right? Like if you go online, and you probably don't have to ever experience that, right? Like unless you're somebody that has like a ton of opinions, you're interacting with everybody and you get like all this engagement that is kind of back and forth. Where it's not just, oh, like, that's cool. It's like, I don't agree with this opinion, or why do you do it this way? You're judged massively. So I feel like anybody in Web3, they got to be crazy to begin with, to be totally honest. Okay, so for MLB, I realized something the other day where they are fantastic at trying to stay relevant or give you reasons that connect your everyday life to their game. I want you to try to notice, if you're on socials at all, for seeing Major League Baseball, what's out there. So Carlos Estevez does this Dragon Ball Z move at the end of it. All right. Rather not that big of a thing. Okay. It's a gesture, but Dragon Ball Z. Okay. And then we got Juan Soto, who's out hanging out with Flavio Caboli. I have no idea who that is, but this is a big tennis player, I'm assuming. Obviously, Juan Soto is a huge MLB player, but they're trying to reference and say, "Hey, you're. I know you're a fan of this other person. Hey, guys, come pay attention to who we are, right?" And this is just generally content, right? But we keep going on here where, okay, this isn't MLB, but 100 Thieves, which is a big esports organization, Noah Lyles, the U.S. Olympian, was tweeting at them the other day. So now, if I tweeted at them, if you tweeted at them, they wouldn't do squat. But listen, you have a celebrity, they're like, hold on, let me put you on a poster. We got a fan. Let's let everybody know that you're here. You know what I mean? And so it's just funny. Like the older you get, all these different reference points, these narratives, these connections, these collabs that aren't even, necessarily collabs in that kind of way. Yo, ad name here, -1 Fudlet point. What's going on? Hope you're doing all right. So this is this is what I meant to have, and I messed up the tabs earlier regarding the polka dot jersey for Miami FC. And Christoph says this doesn't make sense at all. Layer 1 should market to devs who build applications that can get market to end users. But if an L1 is a market to end users, you just want them to buy your coin. I agree with this in the sense of like, okay, guys, are we going to go into a field and try to tell everybody that they want to go learn about Ethereum? Okay, that sounds like good in practice, but like if you go to Ethereum, what's the first website you come on? Isn't it like the developer docs? And I've said this before. It's like you go on certain sites and you think, hey, this is going to be like an app that I can use. And then it's like a huge database or something else that's nothing you could actually do with it. And so it's true. Why isn't this like an app that's on Polkadot that's on here, et cetera, et cetera? But obviously there was the DAO reference, which is this. This outcome was decided by 2 very close DAO votes. The first one had a turnout of 29.8 million with over $250 million at the time of voting. This is a decision made by holders with skin in the game. You're welcome to join this DAO and put your money where your mouth is. This is to somebody that was talking about that we just saw. And that's interesting, right? Like how many people would realize that sponsorship happened because like a ton of people voted on it on a blockchain. Crazy. So apparently we missed a big mint. CryptoKitties, which I've made the conversational piece continuously. Does historical NFTs matter? I mean, last week, nobody's talking about CryptoKitties really at all. And then all of a sudden they have a mint, does well, does like a 70x or something insane. And everybody's talking about CryptoKitties. Now it's $20. And I guess it was just this egg. And they were cooking with it. So just go into the CryptoKitties page. If there's anything else we can find out on it. These are all September. Well, I guess this was yesterday. So a little video, I guess if we can go to OpenSea here and look at what it shows. So 3,134 of these were made, 0.174 floor. Again, these were going for like $20. And so this is now at like 440. So the conversations around, are NFTs back? Listen, we've got some big bids on punks. We've got some things rocking and rolling that are minting and happening. I don't know. Now, on the topic of League that we brought up a moment ago, and on the topic of having physicals and things that we like of these brands that are early, like the Doodles G-Shock watches, like the original Bored Ape Yacht Club hoodie, etc., etc., somebody's holding one of the first graded copies of League of Legends. Now that's cool. And speaking of crazy bids, 1.2 milli, 500 ETH for a monkey crypto punk. Bids are coming in hot. Things are looking spicy. What does it mean? Now, games.gg put out an article highlighting Galaxy raises. Gameplay Galaxy raises. Gameplay Galaxy raises. I feel like these names are like, okay, right? But like, hey guys, we're going to start a company. We're going to call it Gameplay Galaxy, which sounds like a metaverse, right? So is this a metaverse? That is the question. Gameplay Galaxy raises $24 million to develop Trial Extreme Freedom, expanding Web3 esports with player-owned assets and decentralized economies. Oh, look at that. It is Web3. Nice. Not bad. $24 million as well. Kind of crazy to think about back with Abstract, right? With Igloo, Pudgy Penguins, and all that. They got like 10 mil for that. And they had all the stuff they were going, but this one focusing specifically on esports, where it's a niche. Gameplay Galaxy has raised $24 million in its seed funding round, including an additional $11 million in recent extension. Blockchain Capital and Merit Circle led the round. The funds will be used to accelerate the development of Trial Extreme Freedom, an extreme sports title, and to expand Gameplay Galaxy's competitive Web3 esports ecosystem. So what's kind of interesting is that like Trial Extreme here, for anybody that played like ATV versus MX, or it's MX versus ATV. It was an old video game that was about like dirt bike riding, ATVing. I thought it was awesome. All these off-road things. So it's cool that it's getting brought in a Web3 way, which, you know, goes back to kind of like the narratives of, oh, this game is like similar to something I've played before. Can we use that as a reference? Oh, this is going to be the World of Warcraft of Web3. Oh, this is going to be the Call of Duty of Web3, right? We have all these references and things to the past, like with the MX versus ATV. Bart Stevens, GM at Blockchain Capital, expressed confidence in the Trial Extreme team, noting that while many VCs have invested in Web3 games, they found Gameplay Galaxy's approach particularly promising. With over 300 million downloads and a deep understanding of blockchain technology, Gameplay Galaxy aims to create the first Web3 game to achieve widespread mainstream success. So it's interesting that they're kind of saying that there isn't one that's got mainstream success, which, I mean, I guess when you say it like that, generally agree, kind of secluded, not necessarily widespread. But when we're thinking earlier to the Zynga story, they're saying, hey, this has got the team, the technology. They've got 300 million downloads. Well, what happens to that game if all of a sudden, like, the parent company is like just not associated with it anymore? Right? Now, I might not have worded that in the greatest way, but I think we're so set on how we view the brands, the companies, the everything else. When something happens, where it is the Yuga Labs no longer having certain IP that was, hey, this is made by Yuga, so that creates value. Hey, this is Sugartown, it's by Zynga, which helps create the value. Now, it's not the only piece, but I think we're naive if we don't think it plays a huge part, especially when you're talking to anybody or trying to potentially onboard them to it. So the actions, I think, have a little bit of a reaction. Now, this is crazy. It's called Turkey Tycoon. It's a Web3 game. And I've loved Tycoon games in the past. Zoo Tycoon, Roller Coaster Tycoon. We got a little bit of a look of Gods and Goblins with the meteor here. That's some chickens in space. Web3 game, Turkey Tycoon. Is it crazy enough to work? Maybe. That's going to be it for this edition of XFeed, guys. Thank you so much for tuning on in. Hope you have a fantastic evening. And just a little bit of a hint, we are dropping a video with a special guest very shortly, hopefully within like the next hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So keep an eye on the channel for that. But thanks so much for tuning in.